Say that. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Avery County Fire Commission's regular meeting, September 10th. Shane, would you like to lead us in?
Lord, we come tonight to conduct the business, Lord, of the Avery County Fire Department's first responder, Lord. We just pray for your guidance, Lord, as we make decisions, Lord, about the best way to serve our communities, Lord. We ask your protection, Lord, over each person serving, Lord, in each department, Lord. We just thank you for your blessings you get us. We ask you to give us for us.
Just about to get the sign up sheet. Comments. Thank you. Jeff, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We do have some additions to the agenda. Before we get started, we need to vote on vice chair.
Because Rob, who was the vice chair, has been replaced, and that doesn't automatically come with the incoming job. Johnny, thank you for coming. Glad you're here. I do want to say thanks to Rob for his time in, not only as a fireman at Banner Elk, but also for being on the board and what he does for the association. But we're also glad you're here. Thank you for your service with this board and with all that you do down at for your fire department. So, what we want to just go ahead and do that first before 1A, before the very first agenda item, or we'll save that to the last, or go ahead and do that. What do y'all think?
Sure, go ahead and do it.
Okay. All right, so A1, I guess, on the agenda is nominations and vote for vice chair. All right, for public comment, Ken?
Yes, sir.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I appreciate the moment to speak to you. Tonight, I'm representing the Avery County Firefighter Association. Scott cannot be here, so he asked me to step in with him. All right, on first thing, it came up in a meeting this past.
Well, now you don't need to speak now if you're going to be speaking to the agenda item.
Everything he's going to be talking, as far as I know, everything he's going to be talking about is for the agenda items.
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay, well, you're already on the list.
That and the, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
We will get to you in just a few minutes. Mike?
I thought I moved up the world.
That's all right.
All y'all don't know me, I'm Mike, I'm the EMS director over here. I understand there've been some concerns and questions about people responding, first responders to calls and stuff and safety and stuff. I've been hearing a lot of stuff, good and bad, so I just want to mostly clarify what I would like to see happen. We have some people who's not even responding because they think, what's the use, they don't need us. Misinformation has gotten out in the departments and stuff. What I would like to see is when y'all are dispatched, dispatch will tell y'all to stage. And then medics has the option of saying, have first responders going in. Within myself, I would like to see a first responder go in if they feel comfortable. And this was set up, and actually I set this up in March and something fell through the cracks with it, and we revamped it again. Is when, if they have a first responder there, paid guy or a volunteer, if they feel comfortable going in with a mask and have an extra mask with them to put on the patient, assess that patient before medics even get there, I'm fine with that. Then if they need more resources, then they can have more resources coming in. Because we've had a lot of times that we respond, especially when I've been on the truck, I noticed they're sitting on the side of the road and just sit there and wait and wait and wait. And then we clear the scene and transport or get a refusal and they're standing there waiting. And that'd be frustrating because I'm a first responder on the department also. I know how that would be. So I would like to encourage every first responder, if they feel comfortable, go in, put a mask on. If you don't have a mask, you come and see me. I've got masks. We want to get masks on every first responder and the patient when they go in that house to assess that patient. But it's important. First responders, you know, I hear a lot of people in community say, you know, what good are this stuff? We couldn't do our job without first responders. We couldn't. You know, I've heard people make comments where they use this as a pack mule and stuff. I felt that way before too. But deep down, we could not do our job if it wasn't for the first responders in this county. We depend on them. We need them. And don't feel like that you're not important, because you are. We need each and every one that's there, and you're valuable to us. The next thing is, want to make sure all you first responders respond within your scope of practice. We got some that's not. We got some that's not even medically certified. They're starting IVs on patients. That's a big no-no. State gets a hold of it. It's not going to be good, because people don't lose their certification of what they have. Now, I was messing around through the state website and come across a button, and I just clicked on it. I read every call from the state level that we'd run. All I had to do is put the patient's name in there. The state's reading it. So they see the calls that goes on, and they see who the first responders are. They see what they're doing, and if we document it, it's documented. So we need to make sure that we do this. Third thing, we have a medical responder class online starting. Had a call a while ago wanting to know if our new medical director is requiring this. She is not. It's something I've been working on for months to try to get out there to people that doesn't have any certification. I know some people had a 8-hour class and they was granted to be a first responder, but the state doesn't recognize it because there's no certification involved. So this will give them certification. It's all online except for the skills. It's starting tentatively right now, September the 21st. And I would encourage everyone to put that out there for anyone. I've got probably about 20 signed up right now. I'd like to encourage everyone that doesn't have this, or just if they are class don't have certification, to do this. That way they can have a certification in hand and be able to respond and do things and not have to worry about it. Anybody got any questions, comments to me whatsoever?
I just kind of asked Mike to come, because I knew there was a lot of questions out there, and I've heard some stuff from chiefs and other things. And my thing too was for our pay guys, you know, what we needed to, what direction he wanted to see with them, and what they needed to be doing.
So is this, would you say, overview this for me while you're here? There needs to be better communication between EMS and the fire departments?
Sure, there's always a gap in communication everywhere you go.
Okay.
But yeah, I think so. And I've tried to encourage my guys to, when you have first responder station, I said, you know, ask them to go on in if they feel comfortable. I don't want anybody doing anything that's not comfortable with. I mean, this COVID thing, people get nervous. Some people, it don't bother them. But I want somebody to do something that they're comfortable with. They're comfortable, I want them to go in. I want them to assess that patient before we get there. And it may be two reasons. One, they may be refused and they don't want anything, or number two, they may go in there and see if this is a serious patient, we need to upgrade. You never know. You never know.
Well, if you can, Jeff, if we can just look into that, what he's talking about, see what we need to do there to the chiefs or whoever, how
I
the
think you need
process
to go
goes.
to the association then, because that's where your chiefs, everybody's at. You just got lucky tonight that there's a few here because they're looking for money. Because this group really don't have anything to do with what the fire departments are
Right.
doing.
Well, just the main reason I say because of our employees, so we can, I think we need to decide with our employees, you know, if he's good with it, you know, we don't need to be, you know, if he's comfortable with going in, I mean, they got N95s, we don't need to be withholding patient care when we got guys with equipment that we can get on.
Right, I mean, you get somewhere where it's way out in a rural area, And, you know, fire department, maybe a first responder around the corner, and they're sitting there waiting 30 minutes for us to get there, and they'd be having a heart attack.
If you'll get with Jeff and pass along any information or any communications from the EMS that need to go to either the departments or to our full-time guys, just pass that on to him and let him coordinate that and pass those communications on. And if there needs to be, I think there needs to be a more open dialogue back and forth or more regular, then Jeff, we need to start working on that and make sure everybody's on the same page. Does that make sense? All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
We ready to do this?
No, hold on. You're after Seven Devils. All right, with Rob being gone, he was the vice chair. We need to nominate and vote on a new vice chair. So, the chairman will take nominations for vice chair, who does this whenever the chair is not here.
I'll make none, since he's got some experience with it.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. There you go. Hayden also vice chair, yeah. Congratulations, Johnny. Thank you for doing that, bud. All right. The agenda item A, Seven Devils budget.
Appreciate you guys taking time talking to me. I know last month we had a little discussion about it. I've already copied my budget this year. I think everybody's gonna get with COVID and uncertainty and advance moment. This year, we know for the budget again, most time we start around February looking at budget, same time we do with our budget here. I start working to a budget to our town budget. Not Beach Mountain, same way they do. This year, the state grant was one of my big things I had a problem with. I kind of begged to put it in stone and kind of move things around that we worked on. I didn't know until like probably last month, I actually go ahead and complete the state grant I actually got. So I'm right now trying to catch up and actually got to call into the state to probably get an extension on my grant so I can get my equipment. But we actually took the federal grant, state in there, we kind of moved it to the state. But it's the same way. I mean, we kind of just trying to figure out how to make stuff work. We're trying to the big stuff here, big stuff there, to make it all fit one place. I've been really lucky on federal grants. That's something we try to do because federal grants 95% match. You know, the last federal grant I got was it was an event system as an exhaust system for our station, and also a fire alarm system for our station. So we pay 5% of 95 is actually. I'm going to continue to keep on trying to do that. I got air compressors, I got air pumps from the electric company. I think that's what I got. 20 years or several years ago. So, any additional money you can get us towards that. Right now, I've finally made a way to match the state grant, so I can go ahead and do it. It was really in a place where we thought we were going to do it this year.
So what, streamline this just a little bit, what is your actual request for us?
Got with like $10,000.
And that would be for
My state grant.
your state grant?
For a match on it.
Okay.
This one, this one match on it.
Additional budget request, right?
Yes.
this, and correct me if I'm wrong, last month Beach Mountain came before us. There was a confusion between what they had gotten before, what they got this year. There was an additional amount last year. It didn't show up in the budget. And it all came down to, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, what does quarter share mean? What quarter share means essentially is a quarter, we give Beach Mountain and or Seven Devils a quarter of what we give our other fire departments. But then the question is, what part of the budget is included in that quarter share? Is it the grant money, and is it the whole thing, or is it not including capital? And that is, that's something that I mentioned before that I'd like to discuss certainly before next budget time, is get an official definition of what quarter share is, what it includes. We will have you there, we'll have Beach Mountain there, and then we have it set what it is, so then everybody knows going into the budget time what that means. So on the heels of that, and that we granted them some additional money in quarter share, you're requesting $10,000 to help match your state grant as an additional budget process. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions or talking points, or if the Seven Devils requesting $10,000 in additional money, and his justification is for state grant funding?
Did the board not give money to Seven Devils and Beach Mountain for grants? I don't know. We just been a while since I've been here.
No, we just said,
Give them a one
we just give them some of the money that.
We gave him additional budget money that they can use it in their budget. So he has a specific reason for what he's doing. And so that's what he's asking for, is being some detail on that, not just a part of the overall budget.
They only received, what was that, 19,000?
19,557.50.
Okay, and Beach Mountain was at 50 something,
Almost 60, but
so there's a discrepancy there that we probably need to, I don't know if it's the same.
that's what I was discussing last week. That's why I was saying what I did.
So we can certainly have a heads up going into the next budget time on that deal.
And when
Of
I
course,
saw
all,
that budget, how much it was, I tell pretty much there's nobody to come back and ask for you more, so.
well, and there has to be justification for all of it. Everybody, you don't just say, well, they got this much, we want this much. You have to justify that.
Whatever the quarter share is, can't do it this year, because we've already.
Done it, right.
For this year.
We'll,
But next year, they need to turn in a budget, just like Linville or Frank or Newland does.
mhm,
And we need to cut it down like we do.
We're
mhm.
trying to budget every year. I have
But we've not cut it down.
15 years.
We've not scrutinized it like we do the others, is what I'm saying. And once it's scrutinized, then you could go 25 to a quarter share.
Mhm.
When you figure the truck expense and everything in.
Right, we'll get all that. When we talk about definition of quarter share and how we handle that, all that needs to be a part of it. So Jeff, also what they submit as their budget, the line items and stuff needs to have more detail to make sure that happens.
So when we buy a truck, we don't do replacement for you, we actually buy it ourselves, so we're trying to save money up over years. So when we actually have to buy a replacement truck, we're.
Right.
That's a big expense too. This year we didn't buy anything like that. We didn't put no money back for it.
Right. Okay, but at the request at hand, we will certainly deal with that. Probably here before the end of the year, sometime before we go into the next budget, we need to have that decided. But the request is for an additional $10,000 in their budget for state grant matching funds. We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? I'll second. Do we have a second? Any more discussion, gentlemen, on this? Concerns, all in favor? Aye. There you go, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone here from the Firefighters Association who wants to speak?
Thank you.
You've got two, actually, you got two issues, right?
I have two issues. I have more issues than that, but we'll talk about two of them.
Okay. Okay, go right ahead.
All right, so first of all, I appreciate you hearing us out tonight. One of the things that came up in the Firefighter Association meeting this past month, or this month. They want to know if the commission's gonna pick up the difference in the I am responding as to what the new call-out system is gonna be for us, because we're in it for another year and we have a shortage on that. I don't know how much it is, but just want to make sure that it's gonna be picked up, the difference to be picked up on this, because we're in contract for the last year by I am responding. Does
Okay,
that make sense? Somewhat, doesn't it?
so you're requesting additional money to
make sure
you're
that I'm
expecting a
responding.
shortfall on your final contract.
Exactly, that's what I was talking, yes.
And this was not a part of the budget process?
We relied on $3,000 when we done the budget process,
Mm-hmm.
because we were looking at doing the other, Taking
911. so-
Active 911. and it was cheaper, so we went ahead and put the, fixed price in place, and said we'd do something different if that didn't work out. So,
My understanding, we have this other year when contract is last.
Thing is,
Yeah, and
we
they're
signed
under
a
contract.
3-year contract 2 years ago.
you know,
Same budget. So we're locked in for this year. no matter
And
what.
really all we need to do is, because they're operating off their,
They're fund balance.
their fund balance anyway. all we
Be
need to
careful with that, though. Let me tell you why. Lynn will get ready to jerk 4,000 into that for uniforms. Because a lot of that was money that was put in for uniforms that departments have never used. I know of 2 or 3 departments that was getting ready to take a bite out of that.
That's for the formal uniforms?
So in their, what we would consider actually, after we pull out their $14,000 we set aside for them for their operating budget, they would have left, where'd that? $28,450.
Uniforms in.
That's a pretty big number.
Okay, what's the number that we're looking at for the, so what we're saying, we budgeted for the new system that we're getting ready to go into. And there was a shortfall, we don't have the money for the final.
Because it was I
know.
didn't state it because I don't know exactly.
They've got a fund balance of 28 plus uniforms coming out, but there ought to be room for that 3,000.
Yeah, I mean, and if there ain't.
If there's not, they'll just have to come back when these people start burning that video.
Okay. All right. So what we're recommending is that they take it out of fund balance because they've got that now. Sure. Okay.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
It was also discussed that if y'all went with this other system, we have spent years now learning the I'm responding system. It does things the other system doesn't do, which relates to
Both
ways.
systems do the exact same thing.
Huh?
Both systems do the exact same.
No. And we should not be put through a thing of having to learn a new system that we spent all these years learning. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, that can be, that's another agenda item or another meeting, and please bring it up. I'm not sure, I'm unfamiliar with how that process and where we are on that. Was that before me, I guess? I don't know, they've been like for a while. Okay, so anyway,
5 or 6 years.
Jim certainly bring that as an agenda item on the meeting. So now, if we're kind of in consensus or any more discussion that they're requesting $3,000 to fill their
Whatever the difference
contract is.
Closer to 4. Did we set aside for 3 years? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for running.
Jeff, you got a number on that?
I don't have a number on price.
Real close.
I know exactly, I know what we set aside $3,000 for their
with that.
What's the difference? I mean, well, how much money are we talking about? It needs to be fairly, it needs to be, we need to
I'm
have a
thinking,
number.
Mark, I think it's closer to $7,000.
I think it's like 6,800 or so.
That's how much money you're requesting then?
No, 38.
Yeah.
38 additional.
38, because we already,
I already have 30.
okay,
Basically 4,000 additional. just
Yeah.
give it
Okay.
out. No.
$4,000 then, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we have a request for up to $4,000 to fulfill the contract. For the communication is, and for that money to come out of the association fund balance. Chair needs a motion to that effect. We have a motion. And we have a second. Any more discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. There you go, sir.
Beautiful, thank you. Let's see.
Personnel policy.
Yes, sir. Firefighter Association met, the chiefs met first and discussed about the personnel policy and the PT testing in that policy. Association members and chiefs there would make a request that if it's going to be voted on now, to table it until further examination by the chiefs and departments can be made on this. And a lot of it, we believe that HR is not seen, nor county attorney is not going over this. And also there's several verbiage, not read it myself, that's what I'm remembering. Verbiages are off quite a bit in the content, and there's an age discrepancy in the PT area of it where everybody's tested on the same level, depending, not, age has no difference on that. And we're looking at maybe an age discrimination thing on that. If someone's at 50 and someone's at 35, they're expected to do exactly the same thing, and there's a difference. Even the military goes to different ages at different times for that PT, different standards.
Well, now the scheduling for what we were doing is that we did some things last fall because we also added an assistant coordinator. And so we've done some things, but then during that process, we realized there was some other things that we needed to have go through. We were looking for feedback from everybody, but it's not gone to legal counsel yet. Legal counsel still has to go through all of this and either throw out or say okay or whatever, because that's got to be the final thing. So it sounded like to me a lot of what you're talking about is what a lawyer needs to look at and see if those are issues or not.
Okay, and that's going to be taken to the county attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a concern.
No,
that
we're not,
came up and it was.
this is not voted on and we just decide this is what we want.
I would think not, yeah.
The attorney will take a look at this, go through it, and once we have their okay or any issues, we'll deal with those issues and then get it on.
Yes, sir. That was our concern. I'll take it back to association. Thank you.
Okay,
I
you're
appreciate it.
welcome. Thank you. All right, update on paid staff personnel policy. This is more personnel policy.
Jeffrey's printed off, some copies here that, the most new and most updated, changes, that's been gone through and, yeah,
I've got like 75 of these things.
several times, so I think we're at the point where, we should be at a good point to move to the next step with it.
Do what I just said we would do.
Yeah, I mean, if the board's okay with this, and I think we're gonna move to the next step with everything.
Well, like we just discussed, we need to send it to legal. We think we've had enough feedback and that we
Yeah, we can-
Address the issues.
I think it's good.
okay. That's what their concern was, to go ahead and send it to legal. And we got things, any other feedback, or do we think it's okay for them to start going through it? I'm sure there's going to have to be some. They'll come back and say, you got it, this is not right, you can't do this, you can't do this, you should do this. I'm sure we'll get that. We can go ahead and get that process started if we go ahead and turn this in. What does everybody think?
I don't see what would hurt to let them go ahead and start looking at it. And in the meantime, that would give the chiefs and everybody else time to get a copy of it, or I guess, and go through it. What?
That was one of the concerns I made, because it was, some of the copies, chief said they hadn't seen it yet, had not had a chance to review it, didn't have a copy of it. So I don't know, I'm not seeing it myself.
Well, we need, okay,
It went out to the chiefs, right there.
Okay.
This new version of it,
This is the newest, yeah, after the changes were made.
you've got to have to let them look at it again.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was just mostly for spelling.
Okay.
and just-
Well, certainly, I think, my personal opinion is that everybody needs to kind of be okay with it. And then there's going to be questions like what you were talking about that needs to go to legal, but we also kind of need to let's get this thing kind of moving. So do y'all think that if the chiefs don't have this one, Jeff, can you make sure they get them? And it's up to them to get back their feedback prior to next meeting. Okay? If they don't, say, well, I didn't read it well, then, you know, you should have, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
let's get that back to them, and then at next meeting, we will look to, take a look at all that. And then right after that, we can send it on to legal, it'll be completely done, finished, and moving on. Does that sound okay with everybody? But we want to make sure everybody understands what we're doing, because this is a very, very important document. And we also want to make sure we're on legal standing on what we're doing. So we want to make sure we take the time to do this right, but we also need to get it finished at some point. Y'all good with that? All right. Jeff, if you'll make sure everybody gets a copy of that. Get one thing, we can move on from there. Okay. Fire Department annual audit. Now, this was kind of me, because I assumed that audits were pretty regular, but now, so let me say where I was coming from. Memorandum of understanding between the Avery County Fire Commission and Avery County Board of Commissioners. In the second paragraph of section 1, it is also understood that compliance with the Physical Control Act of the state of North Carolina is mandatory for public funds. Then, if you say, okay, what's the Physical Control Act of the state of North Carolina? And I've got a copy of it right here, and I've got actually a couple other copies. Just as a sidebar, it's a lot of legal stuff, but I think that every chief should get this, and every financial officer should get this, because it tells you how to do the job and what the state expects you to do and how to handle the money. So it's not something that you need to memorize, I don't think, but everybody needs to have a good go through on it. There is a couple copies here, Jeff has it. But on 159, Article 3, 159-34, each unit of local government, public authority shall have its accounts audited as soon as possible after close of each fiscal year by a certified public accountant or by an accountant certified by the commission as qualified as an audit local government accounts. So essentially, if we get fire tax money, we need to have an audit every year. And now, that's been not as consistent probably as it has to be, but we probably need to make it that way. And then in my just getting with my home CPA and heard from others, an audit by department is going to be between like $3,000 to $5,000. So that's $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And so that's a chunk, and certainly needs to be budgeted. But we certainly want to do things right, in my opinion. Now, I also, my accountant said that a lot of smaller accounting firms who do business budgets or whatever locally are either, if they did audits, they're getting out of them because the quote was the paperwork is a pain in the hand. So it's usually been up to bigger auditing companies to do that. Now there may be, and Jim brought up in public comment last month that that Watauga County does a group deal, which would make sense. I talked with Ms. Turbyfield after that meeting. The county auditors, who also audit, by the way, the fire commission's books. So this commission, this body is covered. Talk with her about what their auditor's recommendation is on that. Because if we can, everybody's got to do it. Everybody needs to do it. We need to budget for that, and let's see what options that we can get. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year because they're supposed to be done by like next month. But certainly, as a process, we need to start looking at those options to make sure everybody's covered. Now, my personal thought on this is that it's important that every department in the ladder company have an audit for mainly two reasons. Number one, because the state on Carolina says you have to. And then number two, that protects you and everybody in the department and all the financial officers. It's not coming after you for any reason. It's a level of protection for you. And so we need to get that process started and move forward in the most economical way, most efficient way we can. So, so really I'm not looking for any action, but as a update that we will get with the county auditors, get some recommendations. There may be a local entity or person who would like to take on that type of thing. We'll look at all options on that, but that's where I'd like to see us going. So comments or questions, or y'all okay with that? Okay. Well, Jeff will keep proceeding to do that. Miss Turbyfield, when they come in, like we had talked about, if you'll just let me know what we need to do, and we'll move forward on that. All right, thank you. That was easy enough. Elk Park repairs.
Thank you guys for letting us come tonight. Also want to apologize for not being here the last night. We had a fire call.
Well,
Sorry, excuses there.
that was,
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
we're more important, don't you think? No, maybe not.
That might differ. We're better in touch with us.
Minor surgery is always someone who's not having surgery.
And you know something about
All right, you got an update or a bill for us for the monitoring?
No, I do not have that. I don't have it.
We do.
I didn't check, didn't check with that, I don't have it. Did you?
Now, Jeff, remind us.
Did you ask for it?
Well,
I was asking if he asked for it, because I didn't.
Dustin's answering.
Jeff, in the last meeting, the engineering firm, for those who may not have known, the right side of the Elk Park Fire Department is sinking into a hole. Money pit, I guess, if you want to call it that. That it is substandard soil, if any at all, is underneath, and that side is sinking. And so they're in the process of not keeping, because you moved your trucks out.
We have,
I noticed you roped off the office upstairs.
well, the deck part.
Yeah.
Y'all allocated money for that, for this summer for us to replace it, we just, till we get this fixed.
Yeah.
We don't always.
We'll keep that into the whole part.
That wasn't my choice.
Inconvenient.
That wasn't my choice.
Oh, I know.
No, it's not my choice.
Right.
It's not my choice.
No, you have to.
Yeah, we do that.
Right.
The liability is great, and of course, it's on the fire chief
Mhm.
And I asked the fire marshal to come in and do his investigative work
Mhm.
to try to take some of the heat off me.
Mhm.
To make it hurt, or
Right.
stalls in, you know.
So-
We're all gonna be held accountable, and I know I'm the top one, but
So
I'm
there is
gonna
a,
pass the line, I'm gonna pass some of the pressure, whoever I can.
I understand.
Some of it.
Well, so the overall issue is that we had an engineering firm, because clearly there's a problem there. An engineering firm said that we can monitor it for a year to see exactly what it's doing. What was the other option was to tear it down, right? And,
Well, the option was to either tear it down and
Right.
replace it or.
or repair it, but we have to monitor it for, they said 12 months, correct?
I don't think you have to.
If we want to,
I think
if we're gonna use it,
monitoring is just a Band-Aid, because we know it's sinking.
we know how much
There's
money
a 6-inch depth in a level floor.
Right. Well, the monitoring part,
All that's doing is telling us how fast it's sinking.
well, that part was the part that they have to monitor it for a year before they can tell you how to fix it.
No.
What was,
They said they were going ahead.
Yeah,
That was, that's just an option to monitor, to make sure it's not sinking 2 inches in 10 days.
If we were gonna house and stay in that part of the fire department, you know, they were,
So you
Suggested
put
that
down
we
2
monitor.
options, the other two.
you know,
so, because we were looking at monitoring, that's why we got the price. You know, we got a price for 6 months of monitoring of
58.
5,800.
yeah, 58.
So that's,
And we've already spent that much for the engineers.
Right.
I'd have to amount, so, you know, we.
Jeff, you got their recommendations in? Or what?
I can actually go get some paper if you want. You want the book?
Well, I'm just trying to, I don't wanna rely on memory on what we did last meeting on this.
It was to get the cost for the monitoring.
Yeah.
But since that time, the building's been condemned, so the monitoring's
Okay.
really out the door.
All right.
What I would, you know, want to suggest
Yeah,
to
there's nothing
you,
monitoring
Okay.
that's condemned.
what I want to suggest is, you know, we move to the next stage. We're not gonna know what's gonna cost until we get certified people in there to tell us, you know, what it's gonna take to fix it. So, you
Okay.
know, that's not,
So we
That's not-
got the cost of the monitoring, but what we're discussing now, what we're saying is that's money we don't need to spend.
Yeah, because
Because he's already condemned it and we need to,
We need to figure out what the fix is gonna be,
they just,
whether it's fixing it
get
or.
some estimates. We wanna know what the estimate is. They might be outrageous. It might be something we can handle. I
well,
don't know until we.
right, that's what we need to get it's tear down or fix, or rebuild, not over the sawmill. So, so what do we wanna, so we're gonna reject this, the monitoring. That's what I'm hearing, right, from discussion. And that what we need to do now is move forward on what a repair would be versus what a demolition would be.
Well, I don't want to tell the park what, you know, do with their stuff, but I think we need to start looking at another option. I mean, look, obviously what it's gonna be to repair it,
Mhm.
but start looking at other options like, or maybe even rating stuff since it's just been rated. Look, is it better to find a piece of property somewhere and put a substation there and just do away with that part of, or,
Our board met about that,
Yeah.
and our board is completely against that.
You know,
of a substation.
Because the county will in return get that bill. It's hard enough to get volunteers now. My last tell them that this is not your building, you just hang out at it, you know? And then if we get a substation and we keep half of the other building, that puts us up on members that we have to have for training. It's hard to get people to train. Right now, we're at 11, and that pops us to 19.
So what we need, is an estimate to repair, which is probably pumping the whole bottom or pipings or whatever.
So,
if it can be repaired
well,
versus what do we need to have plans for either an addition on the other side? Well, we just,
your only other option will be to tear it down, situate that ground out, and then.
rebuild in the same
Is
spot.
that house still for sale behind?
Yeah, probably would be. It's so, well, it's not so, it's inherited, but, they might,
Might be an option.
yeah, might say.
I just think we need to look at as many options as we can and figure out what's gonna be.
But going to the next step, we at least know what it's gonna cost. And then go from there.
Okay.
And of course, it's going to be certified, somebody in this line of work.
Mhm.
And we've got a couple of names or a couple of places that we have closed, that do commercial type flooring,
Mhm.
So.
Well, what we
Certified-
will,
They're certified in North Carolina to do that type of work. There's a
okay,
place in Asheville, and there's a place in Burlington, no Greensboro. So, do you want us to get one, do you want to get several
well,
estimates on it, or,
it would
I
be,
think we just need one person to come in and say, this is what's gotta be done, right? And then you have to bid, then you have to bid it out.
What they
It has
do,
to be done.
so is that,
you know what I'm saying?
well, that sounds like an engineering firm, though, right?
Is the engineering firm not the one you've already got? They.
well, they're not the company, they don't do anything like that, but they would come and meet with whoever the contractor was, or whoever we got, to explain what their findings were. And they're also saying that, the engineer, the assistant engineer that was there that day that drilled the hole said that, they would have to dig out
Mm-hmm.
to entertain any other problems. They're just, I think they, well, how many?
Corridor.
Well, so, it was straight line down the bay. So that doesn't tell what's under the footing
Mm-hmm.
in that corner. Last year, our bay doors would come down, there was a gap.
Mm-hmm.
We had to fix it, so the cold air would come in. This year, we don't have to do that. The floor's cut up, so now you don't see light. Where it's stuck in, the floor, meeting the pavement, the door, would come up.
Which means that back further in the bay, it has went down further, which is causing the front to deflect up.
So,
And we've never had any heavy equipment in that bay, it's been our squad and brush crew. So, we've got a new brush crew. We don't want to go down there and see it.
In the hole.
See the headlights or something. We got everything out.
it kind of sounds like, to me, and whatever y'all think, sounds like you're gonna have to demolition the place either way. Is that right?
Well, the way they explained to me, that they go in and they knock the concrete out, they dig different levels and detect what's going on where, take pictures and stuff.
With
And then-
the structure part still there?
Yeah, they go in and just knock the page out,
Really.
start digging. In some places, they say they dig under the footing, like that corner.
Mm-hmm.
If it's bad, they would dig under that too. And they go back in there, lay gravel and several layers of concrete, even flowing up under the foundation in that corner.
As a repair.
That's a repair.
Probably do it in sections so that the original ground's holding,
That's
and
what-
then they get the new part in, and then that holds it for them to do the other
And
side.
then move to the next step.
So that engineering firm knows that there's companies that do that.
Oh,
All right, so we need a price as a repair on that, just to see what it is, right? And then we need a price on demolition and excavation. And that just gets you to a point where you start looking to rebuild it. So
There's one other,
that's the two numbers we need right now. Right?
other thing don't me. How do we know that the old building, we were just been lucky, it's not sitting on some of the same green?
Right.
Well, we had him walk around and just about let there's no cracks in the concrete, there's no cracks in the blocks,
It's almost a
stuff like
miracle, but it
that.
was.
That part was built,
close.
you know, that part was
Could be
built,
counted, a big difference.
you know, that part was built '76. The new part that we're having trouble with was built in 1985,
Mhm,
and it was built by members.
mhm.
But with the members during that time, there was 3 different construction crews that were members.
Mhm,
So I think the county, of course, gave them the money
mhm.
for blocks and whatever materials. they needed.
So what we're looking for now is to find the company that will do the repair, where they'll cut out the concrete, they'll pump whatever in there to fix it and to get it back on stable ground without taking down the structure, correct? And then we need a price on demolition and excavation that will just get us to the point where we're looking at rebuilding. Now, do we need a price too on a new addition? We probably do, don't we?
You need to know it all.
We do. So that's three prices.
You get that?
Mike, what would you like to see done?
Well,
I know you
yeah,
want it fixed
yeah,
somewhere.
I would
What
like,
would you and your department like?
We'd like to see, it, repaired,
Mhm.
if it's feasible.
Mhm.
Like I said, well, we don't know if it's feasible until we get some prices, so, it might be outrageous, I'm not a contractor, and I don't pretend to be, but it might be outrageous, it might, outweigh tearing it down, so.
Mhm.
If all possible, we like to stay right where we're at, we're in a central location,
Right.
and it's a good place. So, yeah, if all possible, we like to maintain our station.
Okay. Well, we'll get the numbers. You can get the numbers, or Jeff can help you get the numbers
Work on that.
to see what we're looking at. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Well, thank you for your time, and, we'll work with all 3 options there.
We're certainly committed to get you fixed and where it's will not have to be an issue ever again, so.
Not the matter. Y'all take care, thank you.
Probably posted this. We had one of those good price leveling airplane. Because when they put it in, and whoever poured it only did like a 2-foot wide block. And it showed like 4 or 5 foot stability. And they wanted 6,800 to come in and stabilize it and wait with it.
You just plug it up and report.
Well, we're going to get ready to. I just think that's how to do it.
All right, Lincoln Fire Department 9S rating. Levin, you got this?
We're about to find out.
Okay.
Don't tell us no lies.
I will. I will a lot of things. I won't do that. What can I do for you? Who starts this? Well, you had a rating inspection, correct? Yes. And that was about 3 months ago? Ish. What, 3-ish? Okay. We need to know what that's all about and what's going on with it and where are you going from here?
Everything was good on the 9S inspection, with the exception of training hours. And we were notified by them that, we would have 6 months, from that point
Mm-hmm.
to get training hours back where they're supposed to be. We have 2 stations, as we just mentioned, but that part, since we have 2 stations, we have to have 19, which is more than what you need for just 1 station. And we had been, it's a little bit confusing because for the State Firemen's Association, for example, the pension fund, what you report to the state as far as pension fund members, meetings and drills can both count towards those 36 hours annually.
Mm-hmm.
For 9S inspection, meetings do not count. And so we had members who had their 36 hours to keep their service years and get their pension and all that stuff, so they were good. And they were good in this bucket.
Okay.
But when you took out meetings, they were not good in this bucket. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to break it down. And then I was learning this myself. I didn't know that there were 2 different standards between the state Firemen's Association and OSFM for inspections. Maybe the only person that didn't know that, but it was a lesson I learned. So in any event, we had members who had their 36 hours for one, that did not qualify for the 9S hours.
Okay.
And business meetings were the culprit there because
we've always tried to get credit for showing up to business meetings, and that does count towards your retirement. It does not count for 9S training hours.
Okay.
And so we got some clarification from the state, and you can get these online, I think it's not a big deal. But we got some clarification from the state on what did and did not count, and what hours do and do not count. We learned a lot of things, such as, and don't let me misspeak here. He's my backup man on research. But for certain types of members, you can count 50% of their training that is done in other places other than the Linville Fire Department. Whereas we didn't know if we could count any of it if we weren't their primary station. We learned that there's a distinction between part-time and full-time employees as to what can count and what will not. And so having that education, and after several emails back and forth with a very nice gentleman from the state who's been working with us pretty consistently, we're basically every how many months into this 6-month process. And at last I heard, I think we're good.
Yeah, we're sending training reports every
month. Per their instructions. And we're now essentially compliant, but the 6 months is still 6 months,
So they don't come back until 6 months later, and then they'll check you.
They require, they won't come.
As long as they turn it in.
Oh.
Because the inspection was good, but for that training requirement. And so they don't need to come back. They just need our records that show that we are now compliant, whereas we were not. And so we still have how much left on that 6 months.
3 or 4.
So we're halfway through the process. We're already compliant, but we still must report through the 6-month period.
That's what they told us to do.
Yeah, and had we not, just to clarify, because the word probation was thrown around, we are not on probation, nor were we ever on probation. Had we not been compliant at the end of that 6 months, I don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to read straight from it. If it's an issue where you are short on personnel and training, we will just consider that to be a non-compliance issue, and you have 6 months to correct it starting from last Tuesday. If at the end of those 6 months we are still short on eligible firefighters, at that point it becomes a probationary issue.
Okay.
So the word probation, was being thrown around, and that's incorrect. That is not accurate. Again, it won't affect your rating unless at the end of the probationary period you are still short on personnel. Then we will have to discuss not recognizing Station 2. And see, that's not going to happen, but that's the worst that could have happened, is that Station 2 would no longer have been recognized as a fire station. Station 1 would still have been compliant in service.
And it would take a year to do so.
Yeah. It would have been 6 months from that 6 months for that to even happen. So we're in 2021 before any action could have been taken. And as it is, like I say, halfway through our 6 month, I don't know. I want to use the term grace period, like the very first company we used, but I don't think that's even the right term for it, so I'm not going to use the term at all. We're halfway through that 6 months. We are compliant right now. We're going to continue to report monthly, and we expect it will go away.
Okay.
Well, technically, already has.
It already has gone away, but we're still going to report for the next 3 months. That's.
Because we send in the total number of hours and all the training sheets that we have every month, copies of them to the state inspector.
After we did the bushes and got all the training together,
Yeah.
we were technically only 3 members away, and they were like at 28, 32 hours. They just didn't quite have 36.
I also have members who haven't turned things in.
That's what I'm saying.
They've taken classes somewhere else.
Because, you take a class, and pay your certificate, you just never drop it by the station, and then when we put the word out and said, look, if you've taken a class in the last ever how long, please get it to us. We have, members who train for other organizations who never thought to bring us their papers because they were training for X organization and we're not it. We realized, hey, half of that still counts. And so by the time of that, like I said, we were within 3 members immediately. And then those 3 members,
hours each bush.
yeah, we were working with them, and so we were up to compliance probably like that. So,
Okay. All right, that's the update. Now, it's been brought up about the contract between Linville and whether that's a violation of the contract. Because Jeff, is this right? It says 60 days. But if the state contract is true, if it is a violation of 60 days, but the state gives them 6 months.
And then another year.
yeah, a year.
Right.
And if,
I don't know what all that
and
means.
if this happened 90 days ago and we're just now worried about a 60-day violation, I don't think that's on us.
Well, it's,
Well, we should have run to our contract and read it,
Yes, yes.
but I did.
we needed to address it and have an explanation of what's going on so everybody knows.
Yeah.
And so,
And had we been asked, we would have provided this 3 months ago.
right. Well, you had to have time to, deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any comments or questions or concerns? All right, thank you for the update.
Thank you for your time. Oh, I didn't see the agenda. I don't know what's on.
You're up, you're,
Yeah. You gotta be here at least an hour.
So what we do about our contract?
So what?
What do we do about the county contract? Go while we call the state.
I would recommend rewording it.
We may,
that would mean we'd have to re-sign it later.
Okay. My left hand still works.
I'm not sure what to do with that. I don't even know for sure if it's a 100% violation. I
I
guess.
don't think it would pass the legal test if it ever were enforced.
Well,
Depends on what law you're in.
I don't know. It would have to go to legal. Number one, is it clear, is it?
It at some point.
Actually, I think they did when Catherine got involved.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, if we need to address that.
I think that's talking about like in general, you got 60 days to come in compliance. So, I mean, there's other things in the contract that you could be in violation of. I mean, like not turning in, reports or the bond. I mean, there's lots of other things in there. It's just not.
And what you're
Compliance
saying
with
is
ratings.
it has to be specified that in this particular instance, maybe 2 months is too short.
Well, if,
I mean, I think the whole thing is, it's just like this, if you make sure if they're not compliant with something, it's here you come to, and it's not that you immediately jerk their money, you just need to know that we're moving
Right. and that's
in
what.
a
that's
positive
what it
direction,
was.
that the
Right.
issue, whatever the issue is being,
It's being
is
resolved.
being fixed.
Right.
I think in that same vein, you need to have a good operational definition of what compliance is. And you also need to determine you need to decide who gets to determine that compliance. The state is the
Well-
state, their word is law, that's fine.
Right.
Is-
But if,
you're out-
again,
Contract.
Well, my thought would be, as I don't even know if you're out of compliance, if the state says, all right, look, you got 60 days or 6 months to figure this, it would maybe be after the 6 months
okay,
to where you'd have 60 days or something.
I bet that's not how the contract worded, though, maybe it should be.
In my opinion, this is not, you're on your way, and I think this is good. We have it in the contract if we feel that type of action needs to be taken. In my opinion, we just needed an update on what you were doing, and that lets everybody know.
If we're discussing contracts, again, I don't have it in front of me, I haven't read it, but if it is vague enough, if it is too vague, then as a fire department, I'm concerned that the commission may have too much authority to make a decision. That's why I'm saying, back to my previous comment about compliance. I'd like to know what compliance means, and I'd like to know who's determining this compliance. Is that fair?
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's not, we just needed to know what you were doing.
Well, in this exact issue, I'm talking about more broadly
Right.
as pertains to our contract with the county, because if that's the faucet that controls our money, I don't want that faucet to get turned off because someone who is not qualified, certified, or bona fide says we're not compliant in an area. Does that make sense? That's what I'm concerned about now.
Well-
Not to start a whole new issue, but since you.
Well, that would be
mentioned
another issue, and that's a contract issue.
Yes.
So we handle that,
Next year.
correct?
Fair enough, yeah.
Well, and if there's an issue, let's get it out there well before signature day, not at signature day.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up so that if somebody else not compliant with something else,
Right.
they gonna try and say, well, if y'all let wind will slide by.
Consistency is key.
I just wanna be.
Yeah, that's a slippery, that's a
I wanna make
slippery slope there if you're not careful.
Well, we can certainly take a look at that too.
And if the contract's too vague, you're asking for that situation.
Right. Well, we could refer to the state for any of those things.
That's what I would do.
Okay, any more on this? Everybody good?
Can I go
No. You're the truck dude.
there? Truck stuff.
Well, you would ask for a reoccurring agenda item on truck update. So you kind of did this to yourself.
That's fine, yeah, I'm ready for this.
So let me ask you this, we don't have the 2 trucks back yet. The one with the pump issue and the one that went off the record.
Correct.
And we're still, do we have an ETA on those?
What is the latest?
I called Anchorage today, they're not in the shop yet. 6301, the custom goes in the shop for sure next week. At that point, they'll have that fixed in about 2 weeks. 6201, the 4-wheel drive, should be in the shop later of next week, and it'll be done in about 2 weeks from that. The problem is 6201, they're gonna have to refabricate that whole front part. And that's, I figured it'd be easier to do, but it's not. The custom will be done first, and then.
If it was just the bumper, but if it got all the,
Yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
Coming off the frame.
It's a lot more complicated than they thought.
To clarify, both trucks are at Anchorage.
They both
They're
are.
both sitting outside my
Sitting
Anchorage.
outside.
When he says in the shop, they're there. They're just, they're not,
They've been there.
they're in line.
Now,
They're
this-
waiting in line.
This is the body part?
It is
Yes,
it is cosmetic and a little structural.
Both trucks are
Yeah.
having, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we still got a month on those.
Probably, yeah, probably. The way it's going.
3 weeks on one.
3 weeks to a month and a half. If we were-
All right, and where are we on getting the new one? Could we talk about the bid process and piggybacking? Where are we on that?
We're looking into that, HGAC buy program. And as soon as we can get that cleared up, I talked to him today, me and Cindy's talked today. It's been a back and forth thing, we're trying to get that squared away. If we can get that squared away where it works,
Then we're within
then we're within
a short window of getting the truck.
9 months.
9 months, yeah.
Okay,
That's what it does.
now, just explain that for everybody.
So this program is set up for government entities like us they already pre-bid the trucks. Everything's pre-bid as a base model truck, and then it goes from there to the add-ons are bid on, or added to it next. So you buy the truck, bam, $400,000. Then you add four-wheel drive, and you add this, and you add that, and it's all already been pre-bid. And it's all there, and you just pick what you want and add to it, and.
And they've already got the prices in.
And it's already been done.
It's a bidding consortium. This HGAC is like a large bidding consortium that, like those online companies that say, we'll shop for your insurance for you. You don't have to find the cheapest rate, we'll find it for you.
Right.
It's the equivalent of that, kind of fire trucks, if that
Right.
is accurate enough.
So,
And for what it's worth, we've been told by more than one representative through this last 2.5, 3-year process that we're one of the very few counties that aren't doing that. And
Right.
they keep asking, why are you not going to HGAC? Because I could have had you a truck, cheaper and sooner. And so
Okay.
we've never had a good answer.
So we're in that process, and that's gonna take a little while longer on the administrative side.
if I can get them, if we can get talking back and forth, I'm gonna get a hold of the actual person over HGAC, not just Pierce, or the Pierce guy. I have to get a hold of them and get some paperwork from them. Once I get that,
They're out of Texas.
yes,
Yeah, that's-
and no, they've got a place, they got a sub office in Pennsylvania and another one.
It's a large company.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
very big deal.
So we're trying to get connected with this
Yes.
and be able to get trucks through a bid process, but much quicker than what we
In
do.
the long run, there's other companies, not just Pierce, that are on this
Pretty
system.
much anything you want.
Any large
Any
fire truck
Yeah,
company
it's very
is
common.
on this system.
trash trucks, tow trucks,
So-
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, incidentally, the county itself, I want to look into some of this because they do fleet, purchases of all type, like you said, trash trucks, flatbeds, dump trucks, they're into a lot of that stuff.
Through this same thing, Beach Mountain bought the Pierce, it'll be here soon, maybe?
No, we've already
You
got
already got it, okay, bought it 18 months ago.
Hey, it's in the paper last week,
Um,
right? It's been in the paper several times.
But, they bought that truck through this, and it was a piggyback off of Charlotte,
Mhm.
at the time.
Okay,
So, I mean, we're piggybacking off of a large purchase,
and I'm assuming that process took less than a year and a half.
yeah, so.
Okay, that was
Really,
a little bit.
But accurate.
For
Yeah.
for Pierce, I can't speak for all truck manufacturers, but, for them, once that system is set up with every county, it's a 9-month process from the time that you tell them what you want until they have it in your bill.
Okay.
From go to woe, it's about a 9-month turnaround.
Well, out of all this truck problems, well, something good will come out of it, maybe where we can get those for that system. Any other questions or comments, or you are excused?
Thank you.
All right, policy on part-time employees. Jeff, what we got on that?
That was kind of my thing. We approved last meeting, the last half, minute, whatever, and then our, budget meeting, something, for us to put on some part-time employees. We approved that. And, we hire our employees now in a large group, and, we set them up and do them, it takes almost 2 months to hire somebody. We need to look at figuring out how we're gonna do the part-time employees. We're gonna do them the same way, or we're gonna step back and do them kind of like we done. When we had to have somebody and Chad Cole stepped up and put him to work the next morning. So, I talked to Ashley with the county about how they do it, and they basically let EMS, a couple of them at EMS, do kind of a small interview and put them to work. We just need to figure out how we're gonna do it, so we don't have to wait 3 months to put somebody to work next week. It's only gonna work 20 hours this week.
So you need to have a separate policy on how to hire and fire and handle part-time
Yes,
employees,
yes.
which goes into the personnel policy.
Our agreement with Chad Cole is that, he doesn't have to give us any kind of notice or nothing like that. It is a day-by-day basis. If we decide in the morning that we no longer need his services, thanks, guys. Appreciate you letting me work. So we need to figure out if we're gonna go with that kind of a thing, because we need people next week. And we can put people to work next week doing something to fill some of these holes we've got.
Well, I think there's no doubt that there's an issue with when we need to hire people, hiring people, and there's also an issue with volunteers, which we gotta get into here before long.
We've got 3 really good applicants right now that,
Well, Jeff, I think we need a recommendation on how that happens. How do you put that in the personnel policy, which needs to go into that, right? And how we need some options or something on that.
well, I talked to Cindy a couple times today, and like I said, I talked to Ashley, and, I recommend we doing it as a group of 3, could be me and the assistant coordinator, and someone else if you guys so feel, one of y'all, if you've got time, pick somebody, Cindy, if she's got time, just another person. I like picking on you, by the way.
She
But,
meets 10 hours a day as it is.
I mean, we can even do somebody like Paul, if he's got time, just somebody else.
Would you all have any, issue with Jeff going ahead and typing something up that would go in the personnel policy about how we hire and take care of part-time employees? If you went ahead and, we need something from you that says this is what you think we need to do. And then we can take a look at that instead of just trying to come up with something here. Is that?
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did that, but to get us by, since we're down like we are, would it be a good idea just to go ahead and approve him to hire 2 people or 3 people on a part-time basis, just to help fill in the gaps right now until we can get.
What if we had to,
We've been down for.
Well, if somebody's you get 3 guys sick or something, or,
We
right?
don't get some sure it's in. I mean, like, we've got Elk Park right now, and
We're still short.
Fall Creek could use somebody every now and then, and, well, they've done left. I know Elk Park could use some help every now and then.
How about,
You know, we got 3 qualified, applicants, maybe go ahead and look at trying to get them on, then go ahead and address and get the policy and stuff, because that's gonna take a while.
how about we do this to make it official? We have a motion that Jeff be able to hire part-time people as he sees fit, up to the time that we come up with the, committee and the policy. Does that sound correct?
While you're putting together a temporary policy, you might want to consider transitioning a temporary person into a local position that may turn into a full-time position somewhere else.
Well, that would go through the established policy.
Yeah.
That they could apply, anybody can apply for any of those jobs, and if a part-time person wants to apply for a regular full-time rover or full-time job, they would go through the policy that's already established. They would put in their application, would go through the hiring committee and all that. So.
I would hire all 3 right now.
All right,
I'll try to get you some.
so we're obviously in a situation where we're going to need some part-time people, and that's probably going to be forever. So, until we get a policy on that, let's have a motion to allow Jeff to be able to hire, part-time people and or fire part-time people until we can come up with a formal policy. Can we get a motion on that? All right, a second. Okay, there you go. All right, Jeff, now you got a report?
Yeah, no one's done left, but I wanted to, commend them on, dropping their ISO rating. They went from a 6 to a 5. We got that information back 2 weeks ago. No. Now they're.
Now, so that's the third district that's been lowered in the last,
Fourth, fifth, yeah.
in the last, 6 months?
Yeah.
We need a press release on
That's
that.
why I wanted
Yeah,
to.
once we get, now that we got new ones back, we can actually do it. We wanted to wait on everybody that had done them.
Well, and I think police ought to state, number one, that the work that they all do, that everybody does, full and volunteer, full-time and volunteer, and also to say, doesn't the lower rating lower their insurance rates? And that they need to check with that. That needs to be all a part of that press release. That just starts in October. Starts in October. If you can get a press release article, get with Jamie or whoever, or online places, release that. And, if you want to go ahead and get a rough draft on that, and then, we can take a look at that and make sure everything's straight.
Why don't we get Kyle to help him out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right up Kyle's alley.
Kyle, is that up your alley?
It's been 5 years in the newspaper.
Perfect. You're the man. Let's get a press release on that, and let's let everybody know they need to check with their insurance company, because there's savings that's involved in the work that these organizations do. Everybody's good with that, I'm assuming.
Okay. I got just a couple little things.
All right.
We need to, now that, we've changed out, our vice chair,
Mm-hmm.
we have 3 different sign cards at the bank.
Okay.
And we never really formally changed a lot of that to begin with. So I need to meet with everybody and get just a tad of information before everybody leaves. And we'll put the way we voted to do it back in March
Mm-hmm.
was that all 5 board members plus the coordinator would be on the sign cards.
Okay.
So all I need is, he said we need to vote on it, but since we already voted on it in the past, then we can make a motion, do whatever we need to right here to do it. But, we just need to say that we're gonna change the sign cards, and I need to get y'all's information so I can do that, and I'll do that in the morning.
Okay. We just need to come by in the morning, or we're gonna do it right now?
I've got the a sheet of the information that I need. I have to give this to him, to John at the bank.
Mhm.
He will put together the paperwork and I'll come see everybody individually and get you to sign the papers. Because you have to sign a piece of paper. And your signature on file.
I think you just, I don't know that you need a motion to do that, you just do that every time, yeah, we've already voted on it.
Okay.
So anytime there's a change, we just change the card.
Okay.
Right, okay.
And just so everybody knows, so if things change a little bit at a time, you don't get aggravated with how we're doing it. To do it at the bank, you have to say who you're taking off, and then you have to list who you're putting back on, and we have to do everybody's name.
Okay.
So, we don't have to go through the entire paperwork process, and get all the information in, but we just have to, if somebody comes off, we have to send them a letter to tell them exactly who's staying on and exactly who's coming off.
Okay.
So if something comes up and we have to do this again, you know, just let everybody know.
We'll do whatever you need us to do.
Okay. And then, me and Shane have talked a couple times about truck issues, excessive trucks, and then the four-wheel drive, or the old reserve truck, where it's leaking, the tank is, parts and pieces are coming through into the nozzles.
I like to drive it, but I don't want to fight
I
fire
don't
with
want to fight fire with it. So-
That's the one you're using now till yours gets back.
Yes. It's one of those they're using right
it,
now.
like 2-speed axle.
So,
Yeah, because we mentioned it 2 or 3 times about these vehicles have been replaced, that's not been sold yet, so we got 3 QRVs that need to be, I guess we need to send a letter to the chiefs or whatever we need to do to get them sold and that money coming back in. They're one in Green Valley, one at Frank, one at Banner Elk. Elk Park's brush truck now, which was just replaced, and
I think they're getting ready to do it for me. Go for it, the old brush truck.
and then the old reserve truck, I don't think we need to, in my opinion, we don't need to spend any more money on that we just,
I'd like to have it for a gravel truck.
we just, that's gonna be one that needs to be coming
Well,
online.
Jeff, what you need to do on that, is list out those trucks, and then it needs to come before us, or whatever, I mean, we need to address that as an agenda item on what we do there, or they're the department's trucks, is that right?
No, they're the commission trucks now, they've been replaced now.
I mean, what do they take something to get back?
Well, but they,
Like,
you might want to check the title on that, percent too. It's concrete.
I mean, we replaced it, but we don't have option to take it. I mean, it's not our truck, just because we bought it new. It'd be like you buying me and you wouldn't say, I want your own.
Yeah, but it says that you're supposed to sell that old one and that money comes back and then the commission designates.
you're on your report on this, you're reporting that you're going to get that for us for another meeting, right, for next meeting.
I mean, it don't do us any good to buy vehicles if the vehicle stays in service and you're still paying insurance and
I guess what I'm saying
tires and.
is, if I bought a truck, I probably ain't gonna, well, no, I'm not gonna get it.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. Approval of the minutes of August 13th, 2020. Entertain a motion to approve those minutes. And second. All in favor? Aye. Upcoming meetings, next fire commission regular meeting, October 9th, 2020, 7 p.m. in the Avery County Commissioner Boardroom, Avery County Firemen's Association, October 2nd. At Frank Volunteer Fire Department. Are you ready? They're coming. All right. Chief meeting will be at 6:30 at the same place right before. There is no reason for a closed session, is there, Jeff? Nope. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. Where's Matt when you need him? So moved, second? All right, thank you, everybody.
I guess what I'm saying, Shane, is, I I think I pay insurance.
No.
This is where you hold $85. Sick.
Um,
But